Hey there, YouTube. So I've had this 2020 Tucson for about a week now, and I want to go ahead and talk with you guys about my initial impressions of the vehicle and ultimately how I like it versus the Elantra. If you guys didn't watch my last video, the Elantra was traded in. I didn't necessarily want to do it, but it seemed to be more out of necessity as the car just continuously had problems and it was just giving me a bunch of racket underneath the hood, and it basically was a lemon, but unfortunately due to circumstances that were taken care of prior to this car breaking again, they unfortunately couldn't buy it back. So basically, I traded it in for way more than what it was worth. Hyundai was willing to work with me on that one, so I got a pretty good deal on this car. And I can tell you right off the bat that, for one, it's nice to have a really quiet suspension. I'm not gonna lie, it's definitely been a gem. And on top of that, just the quality in this vehicle, it just feels so much different than that of typical Hyundais. The interior, I'm going to do a full review on it. However, there are some similarities that I've noticed with the Elantra SEL and ultimately this Tucson SEL. But this one has a lot more to offer. As you can see, I've got lane keep assist. I do have forward end collision on this car, and I do have the blue link as of right now. I don't think I'm going to keep it forever, but basically, the difference between the Elantra and this one is night and day. My initial impression of it is that it's a very smooth riding vehicle. I love the way the engine sounds. It doesn't necessarily have the best pickup and go for the vehicles in this segment, as you get a lot of turbocharged engines, but this one is not bad for being port injected, so it actually is a pretty good vehicle. In terms of speed, the transmission actually is really good about getting you up to speed. I did notice that the 2.0 liter was a little bit faster off the line, but I feel like this one could beat it in a drag race just because of the higher power thing, you know what I mean, the higher horsepower. Overall, my only complaint is the gas mileage, especially considering the fact that my fiance's got a Subaru Outback and he's got the 2.5 liter 4-cylinder, and his actually does better on fuel than this one does, and it's actually rated better. Granted, that could be due to the CVT transmission. This one is a 6-speed, but basically, I'd like to see Hyundai Tucsons get better gas mileage because it's really lacking in that department, especially with all the competitors. Like the Honda CR-V, for example, gets astronomically good gas mileage. So it's one of those things where it's a little bit of a disappointment, but it's not awful. You just have to learn how to work with it because, granted, in this city, the average is 22. I'm actually averaging around 24, so I'm doing a little bit better on fuel already. But even then, I'm a very, very light foot in the vehicle, so it's one of those things where you have to kind of watch how you're driving if you want to get that good fuel economy. So, not necessarily a big deal, as the tank is only 16.4 gallons. It doesn't seem like a lot until you go to the pump, obviously. But it definitely made it about 200 miles before it got to almost around a quarter of a tank. But granted, it was brand new and I was kind of beating on it a little bit. Not necessarily like drag racing it, but I wasn't driving it the most efficiently. I've figured out that obviously the lighter you are on the gas and so on and so forth, it's a little bit better. But I can't really complain. I mean, this thing has just been a gem for the past week, and it's so nice to have a quality, higher quality car. It kind of reminds me of the Sonata sort of version SUV, but like I said, it's just very quiet. It's a nice ride. It's very smooth. You feel very relaxed in this car and at ease that it's going to take care of you. This one is equipped with auto hold as well, and I did figure out, however, that it doesn't just hold you on hills. If you actually hit the brake hard enough, the car will hold you until you hit the gas again. So it's actually kind of interesting. Here, I'll show you guys. So I have auto hold on now. So let's say, for example, I'm coming to a stop here. Hopefully the light doesn't turn green. I think it just turned red, so we should be able to demonstrate this. So I'm on a flat line right here, okay? Now, when I come to a stop, the car will actually hold the brakes for me and I can let go. That is actually a pretty neat feature. To me, it's awesome, don't get me wrong, but at the same time, it's like, wow, are we that freaking lazy? So it's one of those things where I'm glad that the cars have these sort of features on there, but it's also like, okay, I mean, that's something I could have lived without, but granted, you best believe I'm gonna use it because hell yeah, I got a car that holds the brakes for me now. That's awesome. So overall, not bad. I did pick the 2.4 for multiple reasons. I did find the transmission in the 2.0 to be a little bit choppy. And so this one, I definitely like the fact that it's a little bit smoother. Yes, it's a little bit slow shifting, but it definitely gets itself out of its own way. It doesn't do it in like a sloppy fashion. So that's something that I really liked about this vehicle, is that it drove with elegance. And I had said that actually I never posted any videos on the Sonata that I rented, but in the Sonata, it was very business class like, and this one doesn't fall short of that. It actually does a really good job at feeling kind of like elite, but not too elite that it keeps you like thinking you're driving an Audi. So I actually really like it. It's an overall really decent vehicle. It's left a good impression on me so far. It's, like I said, it's just amazing to have a car that's like reliable. I know it's brand new, and I know it'll probably develop a rattle here and there just because it's a Hyundai, but I definitely am fond of the fact that it doesn't make a lot of suspension noises, if any at all, and overall just it runs so smoothly compared to the Elantra that I had, which is super funny because like it's a completely night and day difference. Like this one, like I wasn't considering another Hyundai. Like I was like, no, fuck Hyundai, like I'm not doing this again. But at the same time, I was like, you know, like the dealership is working with me on this, and they really seem interested in helping me. So let me go ahead and try this one out. New case starts over if this one becomes a lemon. But off the bat, right away, as of right now, for example, my thermostat would have already failed because the Elantra actually failed. The thermostat failed at 400 miles. So take that with a grain of salt. Like this one is actually doing a fantastic job. It's just very well behaved, very well mannered. Yeah, the steering wheel's a little bit numb, but I felt that in the Elantra, so it didn't feel too different. But I do like the fact that the turning radius in this is actually better than my parents' Chargers. So like it's actually pretty cool. And it's got a beefy suspension, so I shouldn't have to worry about all of that stuff for quite a long period of time. So I mean, guys, the Tucson is worth it in my opinion. Yeah, I'm gonna suffer a little bit in gas mileage, but it's not gonna be too horrible, because even though the tank is 16 gallons, it like when I filled it up from like between a half and a quarter, it was like $25. So I'm really kind of sitting where the Elantra was sitting before. So with that, those are kind of my impressions right now. I'll do a little bit of an interior review. I'll try to get a little bit more detailed with it, just because there are some things that are different in this one versus the Elantra, and ultimately versus previous Tucsons that may have been optional in the past and now are standard. So it actually is kind of nice that, like, you know, you buy something that's a little bit lower scale, but the people in the past that had to buy Tucsons had to get like the limited and stuff like that for all of the stuff that I actually have now in this vehicle. So without further ado, I will go ahead and let you guys go, but if there are any questions or concerns, please leave them in the comments. I'll be happy to get back to you in terms of answering them, and maybe answering even questions that you have. I also have a lot of the Elantra videos up. Any of you guys dealing with right-hand turn noises, ditch the car. Oh my god, it's such a nightmare. Like, I had the motor mount replaced like 3 times. I had the transmission mount replaced, and I ended up having to get the strut replaced. I mean, it was a mess. Granted, it wasn't all the same problem, but it was just like, holy crap. Like, the groaning on it was just ridiculous. So without further ado, again, I will let you guys go. Traveling on the roughest road here, because apparently they can build Raiders Stadium in 6 months, but they can't fix a freaking road in Las Vegas. So obviously we know where their priorities lie. So that's about it. I'll catch you guys again, and we'll kind of go from there. Happy New Year. Have a good one.